as some of you know, I happen to live with three ladies, three women belonging to three very, very different generations. My daughter, who is 8, my partner and wife, who is 45, and my mum, who's just over 70. And I consider it quite a privilege because, in any case, having been to an all boys boarding school, I think I'd had my fill of boys. But joking aside, uh, I have held this belief for some time now that change in society and good in society are chiefly the realms and domains of the gender of women. And I find it therefore especially ironic that despite the fact that there has been a slow and steady change in the status of women in terms of the equality that has been severely lacking when you compare them, particularly with men, there is still perhaps a long way to go. I think it's important also to mention that in a lot of micro constructs and families where it seems as if that particular community or that particular family is fairly progressive, modern, there are unsaid and unspoken ways, probably passed down from generations of conditioning and patriarchy, that assert a slew of intangible pressure on women, and that also makes them kind of progressively lose their identities and their true selves. The reason for this background is that today we are calling this very, very important session Unfolding the Real Woman. And joining us to share her insights around this very important topic is probably somebody who is very well suited to do this because not only is she a very sought after coach, she's also someone who comes from a relatively small town. And I know I'm generalizing, but I think you will agree that when it comes to progressive ideas and practices, it is the case that in smaller pockets and regions of our country, there tends to be more dogma and restriction as compared with, let's say, the metro cities. So, joining us is Alisha Jaiswal. I'm very, very happy and privileged that she's joining us. She's made the time in her very busy schedule because, not unlike many other women, she does wear multiple hats. Is a successful businesswoman, an entrepreneur, and also has her wonderfully flourishing coaching practice. So, Alicia, welcome and thank you for making the time.
Hi, Karthik. Thank you so much for having me here. I believe this is a wonderful opportunity, and what you are doing is just great. That awareness that people really need out there. So, just as I'm just thankful that I'm here today.
I'm absolutely delighted you're here. And very quickly, before we begin, I want to say that a lot of our talk therapy themes and subjects and topics may not obviously, on the face of it, seem directly related to mental health. Not everything about mental health needs to be discussions around conditions and ailments, but also must include and encompass the overall broad but profound impact on mental health of certain situations and social evils and practices. And that's why we very intentionally, editorially broaden the scope of our engagements. So, Alicia, before we get into our theme per se, I would love for you, in your own words, to tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and your work.
Okay, so I am an engineer turned coach, and I have been in multiple businesses, my family business, and a lot of other things. I've been working since 15 years now. But I believe it was only after I found coaching that I really found that, it clicked, it just resonated with my whole um, ideologies and everything else. Because you don't know that you've been working for a long time. You are supposed to do that. We'll come to that later. But so many times it's not something you want to do. So I think I did life coaching to help myself first. So I had a difficult decade, and I thought that life coaching might help me, get that resilience back and get that strength back. And during the process, I found that, yeah, I want to create a business model around it and want to help women out there, want to help people who are struggling to find that clarity and that focus that they really need in their lives. So most of the time, I would say that I don't coach from a textbook. I coach from the experience of my heart.
That's such a wonderful response. And I want to underscore this very, very critical point. Particularly, I find when it comes to the realm of health, wellness, coaching, support, guidance, counseling, the individuals who come into this sphere of work largely compelled and informed by their own lived experience. They bring a not only a wisdom and an understanding that tends to be deeper than just pure academics. I'm not trying to undermine the importance of academics and scholastic knowledge, but that real world practical understanding is deep and extremely useful. And in the first place, because you choose this life path as a consequence of your own life circumstances, also brings to your practice a certain passion, legitimacy, authenticity, which also can be sometimes, if not missing, a little less in people who are choosing certain fields purely on the basis of other considerations. So, this is really the best kind of combination. Um, Tell us now, you are originally, I believe, from a small city as well.
Yes, I am from Jhansi, married in Nagpur
Yes, you're from Jhansi, and you've been for some time in Nagpur.
for a very long time, actually, 14 years now.
I would love for you to share, broadly speaking, first, before we get into specifics, some observations that you have made during the course of your interactions about the status of women and their mental state.
From what I have seen, LGBT, all the women actually, they are constantly wearing a mask where they feel that they need to keep up with their roles, their duties, to be, precise. They need to be a good mother, a good human, a good bahu, and a good daughter, a good everything. And in the process, I believe they lose themselves. They lose touch with themselves. So what I feel is that they need to first understand that why it is important, why self-care is as important as everything else that comes under the duty part. So if they make that around me also, I have so many friends, so many colleagues, so many people I meet on day-to-day basis, and mostly they are married, they are having a successful business, or they are homemakers, but they have multiple duties, even if they are just homemakers also, because there also the work is non-stop. It's a constant struggle. So they are certain things there are that they want to do something, but they're not clear on how to move ahead with that. So they get overwhelmed because when you see the whole goal as a picture, as a single picture, you automatically will get you really get overwhelmed on how to move forward. It's better, maybe I'm not capable. I won't be able to do this. This is just too big an aim in my mind. So what I also tell them is that irrespective of you come from a smaller town or from metro cities, it doesn't matter because the first step is breaking that goal into very small ones and just focusing on the first step that's needed. Because the moment you take that first step, you actually understand that it actually is possible. Anything that you have in your mind could be converted into something you really want.
एब्सोल्युटली मेरे खुद के निजी कुछ ऑब्जर्वेशंस हैं जो मैं शेयर करना चाहूँगा वेरी क्विकली. व्हाट आई एम हियरिंग एंड आई कंप्लीटली अग्री विद दैट, चाहे वो किसी भी तरह से वो सिचुएशन क्रिएट हो, whether it is X particular role or Y particular role. I think the greatest tragedy, as you very rightly pointed out, is a slow diminishing of identity to a point where जो एक समय पर वो व्यक्ति थी वो अब है ही नहीं. She's extinct. This is an example that some of our regular viewers will know I've used before. And I was recently reading somewhere that there was a young teenage girl, a daughter, and उसका और उसकी मदर का कुछ डिस्कशन हो रहा था घर पे about each family member's favorite dessert. And this girl knew each family member's favorite sweet dish. दादाजी का ये है, इनका ये है, उनका ये है. And then she finally came to her mother and she said, Mom, I have no idea what your favorite dessert is. And that was so powerful, tragic, sad, and symbolic of what happens or can happen or tendency to happen to a woman in a particular set of circumstances, where also some of these roles that you talked about, most of them are not roles and duties that that individual wants. They are just thrust upon.
Absolutely.
There is that absolute diminishing of identity that happens. And obviously, when there's a loss of identity, there will be immense self doubt, lack of self confidence, self assuredness. तो आप कुछ भी नया फिर कैसे करोगे? You have no substance left inside you, जिसके basis पे या जिसको foundation बना के आप आगे बढ़ सकते हैं. Now, I want to understand, and I want our viewers to understand that where does somebody like yourself come into this kind of scenario? Because, Alicia, I think you'll agree that another challenge that accompanies these situations a lot of times is also complete unawareness or not being able to, for various reasons, actually get out and seek that professional help from somebody such as yourself.
So you want me to know how I get people to actually understand that why they need coaching?
एंड देन थोड़ा बहुत आपके प्रोसेस के बारे में.
Okay. Um, Karthik, first I want to just tell you that कितनी बार होता है women are ना mostly on autopilot, constantly doing things, taking care of others, and 80% of the diseases in women are autoimmune diseases because they forget themselves, because they forget the word self-care. So what I need to make sure is that I give them a very safe, supportive, and a judgment-free space where they can come and share. Maybe they can just come, take a pause, understand, and realize that what their goals are. Because most of the time they do not know what they want. So understanding, tapping into your strengths, understanding your goals, understanding how to take that pause, getting curious on what you want to do in life. That is what I want them to focus on is the first step. I make sure they come and they talk. If I give you an example, it's like holding a mirror. If I hold the mirror up close, I won't be able to see my brilliance, my strengths and how good I am at certain things. Because I'm clouded by judgment, I'm clouded by doubt, and it is so up close that nothing is visible to me. So my work there is to hold that mirror a little far away from you. So you can see how good you are at your own things, at what are your strengths, what are the patterns that you actually that are supporting you and maybe that are not serving you anymore. So letting go of those patterns, getting free from those patterns and moving ahead. So how I tell them is first clarifying and giving them focus on what their goals are. Once they know what their goals are, together we create a roadmap. And that roadmap,
I'm going to interrupt you here because roadmap obviously is what I want to discuss next. But uh, वो बिल्कुल लॉजिकल चीज आपने कही है. Obviously, there needs to be a certain academic exercise first, जहाँ पे हम इमोशनली और इंटेलेक्चुअली ये समझते हैं कि ओके फाइन, दिस इज व्हाट हैज हैपेंड. सो वंस यू हेल्प देम रिमूव द मेटाफोरिकल blinkers from the horse's eyes, those things come into view, and an individual can get a more objective and a macro view of
of the
her life's present situation. एक एकेडमिक एक्सरसाइज अंडरटेक करने में और फिर उसे रियलिटी में रियलाइज करने में बहुत अंतर होता है, वे बिकॉज ऑफ दो सेम फोर्सेस ऑफ कंडीशनिंग, पेट्रियार्की वगैरह वगैरह, it becomes very, very difficult for that individual to start working towards realizing some of those things that have been figured out, whether it is establishing a new status quo, making new boundaries, etc. So, while I just obviously this is what you would have talked about in terms of roadmap, but I want you to specifically address these challenges also.
Mm. Okay, sure. So see, like while working through the roadmap, we make sure that if the client, first of all, I start with a clarity call. That clarity call is for half an hour. So that half an hour is to understand the person's journey, like I previously said. We'll understand whatever challenges they've gone through. We understand their troubles and whatever they're facing. And moving on from the clarity call to the discovery call is where we create that roadmap.
Hmm.
So then in the discovery call, I make them understand that between certain weeks, we divide your goals in certain weeks because it is impossible to track your progress until we divide that thing into a couple of months, right? So if they are troubling from, let's say, if they're suffering from any sort of overthinking, stress management, because Karthik, when it comes to work-life balance, a lot of things come into picture. Because I have gone through overthinking, self stress, anxiety, people pleasing, and so many other things that have stopped me from getting to my goals. So we see that what are those problems, and giving it like one, for example, we give overthinking a month. We understand what are your triggers, and then we work on those triggers.
Hmm.
And while working on those triggers, I give you a couple of exercises there, maybe later, and then how you have to make some changes in your lifestyle that will help you not fall into that trap again, that circle again. Because coming out of the circle is one thing, but staying there is another.
एक और चीज होती है which I think you might agree with is that particularly again sadly when a woman at a certain age and stage decides कि अब मैं ये चीज अपने लिए करूंगी, पूरी दुनिया उस पे टूट पड़ती है कि ओ हो, ये क्या है, ये तो सेल्फिश हो गई, ये तो ये हो गई, ये तो वो हो गई, शी हैज forsaken her duties, etc. So that itself requires tremendous amount of mental resolve and resilience to actually go through with it.
एब्सोल्युटली वो जो लोग क्या कहेंगे वाला डायलॉग मिलता है हमको, दैट मेंटेनिंग दैट गुड गुड रेपुटेशन, इवन टीनेजर्स अगर शादी होने वाली है, दे आर एंटरिंग दैट मैरिजेबल एज, एंड वेयर दे नीड टू मेंटेन दैट इमेज, दैट रेपुटेशन के वेयर द राइट क्लोथ्स, वेयर द अप्रोप्रिएट, जस्ट बिहेव इन अप्रोप्रिएट मैनर, बिकॉज लोग क्या कहेंगे. So to come out of that mentality, to come out from that, that is also a very big step for women to actually take, to understand कि it is not about others. It is about you first. If they cannot accept you in exactly how you are, in what you represent in terms of your mental approach or your anything else in terms of what you wear, then I don't see why getting married should be, revolving around things like these.
It's really astonishing the sheer quantum of criticism and unfair treatment that women have to face. Another quick observation I'll share. अगर एक कपल का बच्चा कुछ भी अच्छा करता है, that's because of the father, and anything wrong is of course because of the mother. So that's another one. Now I want to ask you some very basic questions, please don't mind. There's a lot of lack of knowledge still in our country in terms of, okay, fine, so who exactly is a coach and what does he or she do? Who exactly is a psychologist? What does he or she do? So I want to also have you just give us a sense of how these sessions go. Are they similar to talk therapy sessions with a psychologist? कैसे, I know that you can't generalize and हर client के साथ अलग होता होगा, but broadly speaking, what are the dynamics and mechanics of your engagement?
So I can begin just on a very basic
Yes,
note, the
yes.
difference between a coach and a therapist. See, when we talk about your goals, we do not tap into the past.
Hmm.
We work on your future.
Right.
We work on how the what your goals are, what the future looks like. And if there is any sort of trauma on a very superficial level, we do take care of. Because you cannot move ahead unless you treat that trauma, right? But when it comes to a therapist, they talk about their deep rooted traumas.
Hmm.
They deal with that first before they move into the past, in the future. So a therapist is certified to deal with the deep-rooted traumas and suggest medication if needed.
Sure.
We as coaches do not advise, suggest, or give answers. We ask you the right questions. Our work is asking the right and asking very powerful questions and getting the answers out of you. So we believe the answers are within ourselves. It is just getting them out in the right manner with the right questions. So that is what the work of a coach is.
And so, as I understand it, I'm not trying to offend you, but अगर मैं उसे बहुत ही मतलब डिस्टिल करके क्रूडली बोलूं, it's like having a nagging personal trainer for the life and mind.
It's like having a GPS for your goals.
Right. Wonderful. Yeah. Much nicer way of putting it. Yes. Okay. And so, usually you would see, typically on average, you would see your clients at what kind of frequency?
At what kind of frequency, as in
As in
how many
once a
clients?
week, twice a week, once a month.
It entirely depends on what the goals are. I
Right.
have a couple of clients I meet every week, every
Hmm.
Mondays. Mondays
Hmm.
are my busiest days because the week starts and
Hmm.
it's easier to track your progress. And some of them, I'll give you an example. For people working on the emotional resilience, need to meet every week
Hmm.
because that's a
Makes
very
sense.
slow and it's a very long process.
Correct.
But people working on their productivity, on time management, can tweak once in a month, 15 days also. But I have started with clients who started with time management and the productivity and their teamwork in the initial months and then moved on to their personal resilience,
Sure.
emotional resilience in the later months. So their timing would vary according to their goals.
Speaking of time management, I'm trying to manage our session time as efficiently as possible. So my final two questions. एक तो um, there is this without, of course, breaching any confidentiality, etc. I think it always helps lay people understand things better when we exemplify them or when we contextualize them. तो अगर आप कोई ऐसा उदाहरण दे सकते हैं without mentioning names, etc., of how this individual came to you and how he or she transitioned.
Um, so I have a client who's working on her anger management and a couple of other things because she comes from a family who's like very, let's say, not conservative, I would say, but not very broad-minded in terms of how she would move ahead with her career and with her kids. So she was having trouble with her kids in terms of how to deal with them because of her anger and how
Mm-hmm.
to not react.
Mm.
So I have seen her from reacting in a very different manner to coming to responding
Mm.
by taking charge of how not to react but rather respond,
Wonderful.
how to give yourself time, how to break that loop, take a pause, ask your brain to just pause right now, get out of this situation, go to the other room, deal with that situation, and then respond in a good way. So she's actually learned how to do that,
I'm
which is
so happy anyway that this is the example you chose to share, because again I can tell you, and I see this all around me, that so many mums are otherwise facing certain situations and frustrations in their lives that tend to be manifested in their dynamic with their children, and that's terribly unfair for the children. And of course it increases shortly after or at some point the ever-present mom guilt that's already there. So I'm really, really happy to hear that. Finally, Alicia, and again, I think you'll agree that not everyone has the opportunity to seek advice from somebody such as yourself, again, for various reasons. Um, Are there any sort of general, suggestions that you can share, particularly for women, in terms of just some things that they can incorporate in their lifestyles, या वो धीरे धीरे करना चालू कर सकते हैं, जिनसे उनका खुद का ये जो लॉस्ट अस्तित्व है वो थोड़ा थोड़ा वापस आने लगे?
Absolutely. See, so many times women are always dealing with chaos in their mind. There's always so much going on, constant, work reminders and reminders for kids' tiffins or work, or maybe dealing with your team or dealing with office work. So many other things in the mind. So I would suggest that they do a very small exercise every day, whenever they feel like it. Doing it in the morning or doing it in the night is the best time.
Hmm.
And just take a paper and a pen, sit down, and whatever you have in your mind, start a timer for a minute and just start writing that. It's called a brain dump, and it brings all the chaos from your mind onto the paper,
Hmm.
keeping your mind clear.
Hmm.
So once they start doing that, they'll see that if they do it in the morning, their day will be much more planned and relaxed. And if they do it in the night, they get a much peaceful sleep without any overthinking. कि कल क्या करना है, ये हुआ कि नहीं हुआ, कब क्या करेंगे. So that getting that chaos from your mind to the paper is the best first step, I would say.
That's a wonderful suggestion. Again, of course, I couldn't agree with it more. Being a writer and somebody who does the therapeutic writing interventions across the board, from corporates to schools and colleges, it's essentially, in a healthy way, getting rid of your baggage and putting it in a trash can. Wonderful. It's been lovely, lovely interacting with you. I said to you earlier also that I'm a genuine admirer of anyone in your position who's doing this kind of work, because we understand that um, there is a desperate need to liberate millions and millions of women who are out there, who perform the world's toughest and most thankless job of being a homemaker. I take personal issue with people who say just a homemaker or just a housewife, because वो just शब्द तो इतना गलत है कि मैं बता ही नहीं सकता. So thank you very much. We wish you all the best. Hope to be in touch and speak to you soon.
Thank you so much, Rathi. It was really lovely coming here and talking about things that need a lot of awareness. So, yeah, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for this honor.